Let's delve into another topic, that is objectivity of moral values and cultural relativism. It is a very short topic and we'll finish very soon. Whether there are universal moral principles applicable to all human beings or whether morality is bound by cultural norms and practices, it is a question that is asked by ethicists more often. Now we will discuss objectivity of moral values. Its definition is that moral objectivism posits that certain ethical rules and principles are universally true, regardless of individual beliefs or cultural differences. These principles are not subject to human opinions but exist independently of them. The philosophical foundation of objectivity of moral values. Plato was one of the earliest proponents of moral objectivism, arguing in his theory of forms that abstract forms or ideas such as goodness exist beyond our physical world. Centuries later, Immanuel Kant introduced the concept of the categorical imperative, suggesting that moral obligations are universal and can be determined through reason. Now, talking about the example, consider the principle it is wrong to torture innocent beings for fun. A moral objectivist would argue that this principle holds true regardless of any culture that might accept such practices. And then, talking about challenges, critics of moral objectivism often point to the vast diversity of moral beliefs across cultures as evidence against universal principles. The is-ought problem, famously articulated by David Hume, questions how one can derive an ought, that is, a moral directive, from an is, that is, a statement of fact. Now let's talk about the cultural relativism. Its definition is cultural relativism is the view that moral values and ethics are rooted in and can only be understood within specific cultural context. What is considered moral in one culture may be deemed immoral in another, and there is no objective standpoint from which to judge these differences. Talking about philosophical foundations, anthropologist Franz Boas and his student Ruth Benedict were pioneers in popularizing cultural relativism. They argued that moral standards are culturally specific and that it is ethnocentric to judge one culture's morals by the standards of another. Now let's talk about the example. The practice of arranged marriages varies significantly across cultures. In some societies, it is a respected tradition, while in others, it is viewed as an infringement on personal freedom. What are the implications? Let's see this. Cultural relativism challenges the notion of universal human rights, suggesting that such rights must be interpreted in light of cultural context. This raises complex questions about the legitimacy of international interventions in cases of human rights violations. Now, the critical comparison and discussion. Contrasting views. While moral objectivism seeks universal truths in ethics, cultural relativism emphasizes the diversity of moral understanding based on cultural backgrounds. The former offers stability and a common ground for international ethics, while the latter respects cultural diversity and autonomy. Case study: the practice of female genital mutilation is a poignant example. From a cultural relativist perspective, this practice is deeply embedded in the traditions of certain communities. However, from an objectivist viewpoint, it is a violation of universal human rights, particularly the right to bodily integrity. What are the contemporary debates? The global discourse on LGBTQ plus rights illustrates the tension between universal rights and cultural norms. Some cultures embrace LGBTQ plus rights as fundamental human rights, while others view them as contrary to their traditional values. In conclusion, the debate between the objectivity of moral values and cultural relativism is central to understanding the complexity of ethical judgments in a globalized world. It's crucial to recognize the merits and limitations of each perspective to navigate the ethical dilemmas we face today. Here are, here are some of the questions that you can discuss.